Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of the creditrepairshop.com. And in today's video, we're going to talk about removing medical bills off of your credit reports. Medical bills is something that has hit all of us, either from people who didn't have insurance or people who do have insurance. There's different types of ways that information from your medical providers could be placed on your credit reports. A lot of people don't know also that there was a law that was passed and an agreement with the credit reporting agencies that no bill $500 and under would even be placed on individuals' credit reports. Well, lo and behold, it is still being placed on people's credit reports. I have clients where they have medical bills that are lower than $500 that are being reported on their credit report. So you might be wondering, well, Steve, how is that happening? If the bureaus agreed to it, and you've probably read the news reports and saw different stories on YouTube, that this should not be happening. And I have my suspicions on why why they're still able to do it in some cases. And I'm going to tell you exactly what you can do about it. So please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber to my channel yet. We help people with credit and debt issues, and I tell you the real. That's the thing. When people watch my videos, they know that it's the real. And what I mean by the real is that there's real information, and then there's real information that's applied to individuals, to their situation. And that's why I say I give you the real, because we don't just talk about it, we actually do it on a daily basis here. So removing a medical bill off of credit reports, I have my two buckets here of where the medical bill could come from, and then we're going to talk about how you can remove it off your credit report. First thing is, you got to find this out. Like, one of the most important pieces to understanding how to repair your credit is to understand where that debt comes from. I've had people call the office, or we talked to people when we were reviewing the reports, and they were thinking that the medical bill that was on their credit report was the actual bill and that the insurance was supposed to pay for it. So what we would do for them is we would say, okay, if you believe that the insurance was supposed to pay for that, why don't we just go straight to the insurance company and ask them or to tell them, hey, this was supposed to be covered in the insurance. Maybe it got overlooked or something. But you have to be willing to do that, because if you don't, all they're going to do is say, hey, it's unpaid, and they're going to report it on the credit reports if it meets certain criteria. So the first thing that you got to do is you got to find out if it's your deductibles, if the bill was from deductibles, or if this is just the original bill itself, so you can find out. So the first solution before we even get over here is to find out this information, because did the insurance cover it? It could be covered. It could be covered in your insurance. And we found out a lot of times where we had submitted a letter on behalf of our client and said, hey, these bills are supposed to be covered, and you have it reported on their credit reports that they owe like $7,000. This is supposed to be covered. And then we might get a letter back. Sometimes they say, hey, it was covered. It was a mistake. The prior authorization, it was a mix-up, all that. You know how it works with insurance. And they say, okay, it is covered, and we're going to remove that information off the credit reports, and we're going to also have the bill paid, that your client won't have to worry about it, or they'll send a letter to the client and say, hey, you're not going to have to worry about this. It was our mistake. Another thing that seems to happen too is that, and this actually happened to my wife when she was going through her lung transplant, is that the hospital was using outside services for different tests that was being done for her. But they didn't notify us that they were doing that. And so all of a sudden we would get a bill from another office, and the bill was legitimate, but the problem is that the bill was supposed to be paid through the hospital. So they didn't get paid. The hospital was taking their sweet time, and probably the hospital was waiting on the insurance to pay them. And so that, that outside provider was like, hey, we need to get paid. So you need to also double check if there's any outside providers. And the way you do that is you need to call, if you got a bill or if it's showing on your credit reports, you got to call that number and you got to ask them, hey, where did this bill come from? And then they'll backtrack it and they'll say, hey, it was for a service that was that we provided for the hospital for you. It was maybe sent to our lab or whatever they tell you. But that doesn't matter. You need to notify them that, hey, I was not aware that I was doing business with you and that this is something that was actually supposed to be taken care of by my insurance through the hospital. And they will do their little research and stuff like that, and they will actually get that resolved. If they try not to get it resolved, let me tell you how you can get that resolved. Is that sorry about getting my words mixed up. There is a law that says that there is they call it a no surprise bill. That's the actual wording for it. What got my head spinning is I was thinking that it must be named something else, but it is actually called no surprise billing. And so you could say to them, hey, I was not notified about this bill. If they try to claim, hey, the insurance isn't paying it, the hospital isn't paying it, you got to pay it. And you just say, hey, when I signed for the services to be provided to me, I had no idea of your outside services. And so I disagree and I dispute your bill. And they will actually have to take away that bill. I've seen it done. Don't think that it can't be done. There is a law out there and it's called no surprise bill. So once you figure out and you got your bucket all filled up and you know what's going on, then you can start getting ready to move over here to this section here. We'll get to that real quick. Now, the one in the middle is no coverage. If you had no coverage at all, and there are people that are out there and they have no medical insurance. And I know that could be a very difficult situation. If you don't make enough money or your job doesn't provide it, it could be a very difficult situation. So I'm going to tell you quickly some solutions that we've been able to find for our clients and what we tell people that call into our office that talk about medical bills. And this is just dealing with the bill. We'll talk about getting it off your credit reports in a second, but this is talking about dealing with the bill. There's whatever hospital that you were admitted to, there's usually some sort of organizations. It could be a religious organization, or it could just be straight up just a nonprofit organization. And what they do is they will look at your medical bills and you can submit it to them, and some of the times they will pay them. This is like a very exciting thing for me to share because I had a client years ago, probably about 6 years ago. He had a asthma attack and he ran up about $36,000 in medical bills. He was, at that point, he didn't even think that he was going to make it. He was using oxygen off and on. And, my wife at that time, she was on oxygen and she, like, he would ask me things and I would ask her stuff. And we were like passing notes around to see if maybe he had the same situation that she had. It turns out that he didn't. He was just, needed to lose some weight and get in better shape. And I think he was, smoking a little bit too. But he had to stop all of that stuff. And now he's in pretty good shape and he doesn't have that situation anymore. But he had a $36,000 medical bill. And what we did is we had contacted the hospital. We didn't even know about this organization. We were just contacting the hospital just to do this part here, the verification of the bills. And he didn't have insurance. He didn't have insurance. He's pretty young, and when we're young, we don't really be messing too much with insurance. But we were just gathering the data because he wanted to repair his credit. This is actually one of my business clients who is now has like a towing company that has about 20 trucks. He's in the real estate, all of that stuff. But at that time, he was a young guy. I was actually mentoring him on business, like saying, hey, you got to get yourself in order. And one of the first things that he came to me with when his credit was tore up was that medical bill for $36,000. And all we were doing was just trying to figure out, if this is legitimate or that, like to get all of the services that were provided, get a real cost, and then start to kind of work that down. And then all of a sudden, that opportunity came about where the hospital itself said, hey, we can submit your information to this organization and they might be willing to pay this. And, all of those organizations have their own criteria, but I could just say, end result, bottom line, they paid all $36,000 of his medical bills. I'm talking about zero. He paid zero. This young man was able to move on, and you could, just like I just told you, has 20 tow trucks. I'm talking about the huge one, flatbeds, and he also is huge in real estate and has about 20 of those 5-minute oil change places. So like he has really flourished. And I can tell you, foundation of him flourishing, and I'm going to bring him on a video one time with me, is that he got his personal credit fixed first. Don't believe people who say that your personal credit is not the foundation for you being able to move on with business. It is. It's the foundation. So now the next thing. So we talked about how you can take care of it if you have no coverage. Also, if you can't find an organization, I can tell you that you can contact each of those each of the medical providers, and you can work out settlements with them. They will work out settlements. They actually do that with the insurances. The insurances, they rarely pay the full amount. There's like an amount that they're willing to pay. They just go, the hospitals just send them a high bill because they know that they're going to have to negotiate down. So now we're moving it off your credit reports, because this section right here actually has nothing to do with why it's on with them keeping on your credit reports. Because in my opinion, I don't believe that any medical information should be on your credit reports, because it could actually put you, it can, if you're being judged off financial, and then they look at your credit reports, they see also that you have medical issues, aren't they essentially kind of judging you two ways, off of what you've done financially, but also off of what you're going through medical wise? Now, some people might be saying, well, hey, if a person's about to die, they shouldn't be going out there getting credit. That's true, but the credit reporting agencies have not disclosed that the reasons why you get turned down for loans is because you are about to have a heart attack or you might die. That's not, I've never heard that that's supposed to be the use of using credit reports. Use of using credit reports is how you've been paying people and the types of credit that you have and how you utilize your credit and your debt to income ratio. That's what the credit reports are for. It's not about trying to share with people your medical situation. So first thing that we do, dealing with if you ever get a letter in the mail that say you owe a bill, this is like a guaranteed way to get the information taken off your credit report. If it was sent by a third party, you can basically make a letter, or you could have us do it for you, but you could basically make a letter and stating that they have violated the HIPAA Act by sharing your information with a third party. If you receive a letter from the medical provider, and on the outside of that envelope, it has the type of procedure that medical provider provided to you, that's a violation of the HIPAA Act. They cannot do that. They cannot share your medical history with anybody without your written permission. So to even show you how this kind of maps over to everything that you do medically, is that there's a certain medical test that I had to take, and I took it at home. And the box that I put it in, it did not have anything about the medical provider inside of that inside of that box. I mean, on the outside of that box. So the box is being sent with the samples in there for the testing, but it doesn't say who that company is from, because they have to be very careful both ways that they cannot disclose your medical information to a third party. Third party could be someone who just picks up and delivers your mail. So if you got any letters like that from either the original provider or a third-party debt collector, you could utilize that information to get that off of your credit reports. It doesn't make the debt go away. You're going to still have to go through, what you have to go through to take care of the debt, but you can get that information off your credit reports. And so that without your permission, they cannot disclose that. And then with notification with the mail, they cannot disclose it on that notification with the mail. Now, I kind of discussed this a little bit earlier, that $500 or below rule. There is a rule that states that that no medical bill $500 or below is supposed to be on your credit reports. But when I was reviewing one of my clients that came in, and all he had was medical bills. That's all he had. I have a sneaky suspicion of why medical bills that are lower than $500 can still be placed on people's credit reports in a sneaky way. This is the way the debt collectors are getting away with it. What I'm thinking, is that say you go in, you're covered. Say you have medical insurance, and the cost of the services was $10,000. And say you had a deductible. Let's just say your deductible was $350 is your deductible. When I had spoke with my client, I said, they're not even supposed to be putting this on your credit reports at that level, and it was really, truly affecting his credit reports, and he's trying to buy a house. And he was like, this medical bill, why is my score just dropping? And I looked at it, and he had like 5 medical bills, and I was like, man. And the thing about it is that they were all below the $500 range. And I said, well, what did you do? He said, man, I had surgery on my arm, and it was supposed to be covered by insurance, which I talk about that, is that you got to always figure out what was supposed to be covered by insurance. Like, he didn't even know, and this is a person who has $1 million printing company, and he didn't even know that this is something that he needed to do. And so it populated on his credit reports. His scores went down under 700. Actually, it went down 50 points. It went it went down to like 650, 656 in that area. So it had really dropped his scores. And so he came to me and he was like, you got to help me take care of this. And when I looked at it, the amount that he had, I was like, they should not be on your credit report. Regardless, I know I can help you, but these amounts, what concerns me is that they were not supposed to put these on your credit reports. And this is what my antennas went up, and this is what I came up with. This is what I think is happening, is that they have an overall bill. This is the overall bill of $10,000. And for example, they have a deductible. The way that they're able to get over on this is utilizing this technique. Now, regardless of if the insurance pays the bill of $10,000 and you have a $350 deductible, who was provided the service? Who had the services that was provided? The insurance didn't have the services, so regardless if the insurance paid the $10,000, that does not matter. How much was your initial bill? And this is the thing that where some of the times you get information over and over and over again, and you don't really pay too much attention to it until it's like, wait, hold on, that's what that means. My wife's medical bills for 1 year was like $2 million, and they would always send us this big packet. As a matter of fact, when the surgery that she had for her double lung transplant was over $2 million for that one surgery. And so when we would get these big packets in the mail, and it would say, this is the amount that you save, this is the amount that you pay. And they would send that to us all the time. And so that's like a message, because when I saw his stuff on his credit reports, and when I had talked to him about his shoulder surgery, all of a sudden, all of that stuff came to me at that one time, and I was like, this is what they're doing. All of this is you. All of this is you. And we know that companies and collectors and all of these people who want to put, these companies want to put information on your credit reports, they can be very tricky, and they can look for loopholes. Everybody's looking for a loophole to get stuff off their credit, but nobody thinks about the loophole that creditors and debt collectors use to get information placed on your credit reports. The actual bill, the total bill for this example would be $10,350. Regardless if they put $10,350 on there, in their mind, the total bill was $10,350. You might be saying, well, Steve, if you only owe $350, they can't put that information on your credit reports. No, by the rule, they can't. But they can justify putting it on there because the overall bill was $10,350. Let me put this together even more for you, so you can see my point on this. Look at your credit reports right now. And if you have a vehicle that you paid on, and let's just say that your vehicle, even though they don't report it this way, but this is my thinking on this. On your vehicle, you might have owed $10,000 at one time, and say you only owe $350 now on that vehicle. Why would they keep the total amount on there, the overall? Why would they keep that information on there? Now, yes, it benefits you because it shows that you had a payment history, but that same reasoning can be justifiable for the medical provider or the third-party debt collector to place that information on there, because the overall debt was more than $500. Now, I know people are going to probably post comments. They're going to be like, they can't, why? What's your thinking on it? I'm just telling you. How many times have you seen things and you're like, how are they able to do this? I'm telling you, there are some times where they look at these loopholes, and really, for a debt collector, what is the number one thing that they could do to get someone to pay something? And that is to damage them by putting that information on their credit reports. So if that is the number one strategy that you can use, and the credit reporting agencies take away that strategy from you by saying you can't just report a $500 bill, well, what if they say, hey, we're reporting that because really it was $10,350, but they only owe $350 left on the bill. That's our justification for placing that on there, and we'll sign to it. And if needed, we can get documentation showing that the overall bill was $10,350. You see that? You see that? Everybody that's still here, I want you to like this video right now. This is stuff that you don't get anywhere else. So if you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video, What Makes Us Different, so you can see my 8-point validation process, my 2-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website, your3scores.com, to grab your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores and all of the information and data that you will need. When you're fighting medical bills, you're going to need to know where that address is located that the furnisher is using. They could be using multiple addresses, and your disputes won't even get looked at because it's not going to the right place. Or when you're trying to get the appropriate information here, because that's who's going to handle it, or if you're trying to prove that a third party violated, you got to know this information to be able to fight it. And the way to get the best information is to have a paid credit monitoring service that will provide you the TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, credit reports, and all 3 scores, and all of the data that you'll need. The free services don't provide that. If you have debt collectors coming after you, grab my 3-pack of letters: statute of limitations, cease and desist collection activities letter, and statute of limitations letter. These will stop debt collectors in their track, give you instructions on which one to use. Use the one that is appropriate for your specific situation. I do ask for a donation on those, but it can save you time, money, and frustration. Thank you for your time. This is Stephen A. Williams, President and Founder.